pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to remain standing for a brief moment of silence in honor of Legislator Mangano. She was a member of this committee, a member of the legislature, and served her community for many years. We thank her for that. Okay. I hope everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes. Give a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Let's move on to PS1, resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Sheriff's Office to transfer insurance recovery, Treasurer's Office, automotive supplies, repairs. Motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you for the second. There's really not a lot of reason to have a discussion about this. It's $821 an accident that we're recovering off the bat. Any issues with that? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, PS2, resolution authorizing budgetary modification for Sheriff's Office to transfer for road patrol salaries to Drug Task Force. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion? This is $50,000 from wages and salaries to the Drug Task Force and $3,000 in Social Security to the Drug Task Force and Security. Thereabouts. Any issues? Mr. Castillo.
It's not an issue. It's just we're able to do this because we don't have enough. We got less people in road patrol, so we can move it over. That's correct.
That's correct.
Right. So what are we going to do next year if we get everybody in road patrol? We budgeted higher for next year. I didn't notice. Okay. All right. Good enough. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I may have some. The next year, my understanding is there's going to be a switch on the 211 waivers.
Yes.
And it may very well be that at some point next year, the task force may need to move back into the DA's office line.
That is the plan.
Yeah. So that may solve that particular problem.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS3, resolution accepting grant award from the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services Criminal Justice Discovery Grant.
So moved.
Second. All right, this is in the amount of $374,282. Mark, want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, basically they upped like they did with the aid to prosecution grant, they upped this significantly. I think it's another 370 something. So the total grant is just over $500,000. We had budgeted, Greg had budgeted about 240 or 250,000. Was what we thought we were getting. We ended up getting 370 more. So it's just to accept that money.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS4, resolution authorizing the Oswego County Emergency Management Office to accept funding from the Walmart Community Grant Program. A motion, can I get a second? A second. All right, Kathy, tell us about that.
Walmart has really done a great job. They've committed to our county drone program. This is for $900 office, so that's something. This is the third or fourth time that they put money into the program, and so we're thankful for that. So this is up with that money that they've given us.
Working. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS5, resolution authorizing budget modification, Oswego County Emergency Management Office, transfer from Insurance Recovery Fund to the drone, other equipment. Make a motion?
Yes.
A second. Thank you. Kathy?
So this is an insurance recovery. Our drone was damaged at an educational piece at City BOCES, and so this is to recover those funds from that insurance recovery and to purchase the drone.
It's in the amount of $1,000. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, I don't see Nate here, so why don't we go right into emergency management?
Sure. Nathan, Italy, he'll be back
It's raining.
Tuesday. Be back in the office on Wednesday, so if we're looking for him. To highlight some of the items that are on his agenda is the Mentor Academy will wrap up this month. So that's 6 original EMTs and 2 refresher courses. We also have a certified first responder class going on. There's 13 students in that, and all are active members of the volunteer fire departments. So that's something that's ongoing and doing well. We did have an EMT class that had to be canceled. It was supposed to start November 15th. Unfortunately, the course instructor had to pull out, and we didn't have that amount of time to put another one in with the requirements of the state to get another instructor. So we're hoping that Mentors is going to have a class in January, so we're hoping to get some of those that were in that November class get into the January class that Mentors is having again. So that was just a little quirk in that one. Other than that, he's working on updating a countywide EMS mutual aid agreement. It's ongoing. It's just with all of the agencies in the county. But other than that, I don't see much change in some of the information that he has. But if you have any questions that I can answer or Tyler might be able to answer, will definitely help you. Otherwise, I can get an answer from Nate.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Moving on to EMO, we're busy with a lot of different plans that we're working on actively. We're still working on that county hazard mitigation plan, which is going to go on through next year anyways, but working with our municipalities to update those plans. Tyler is heading up our solar eclipse planning for the county with our stakeholders. We did hire a vendor to do some improvements to our emergency operations center to add better audio and visual. So we're getting additional camera and microphones in there. So if we do more virtual components, people that are on the virtual end can actually hear people that are actually in the ULC. So that's something that we found needed in there. So we're going to put that into the ULC. Tomorrow, just to let you all know, tomorrow is our biannual siren test at 1 o'clock. So all 40 sirens will be going off for approximately 3 minutes, and you may hear some additional sirens thereafter in the afternoon if there's any issues with any of them. So on occasion, 911 or our office does get phone calls on why the sirens are going off. So if you guys get them, it's just a test. Let's see. We did off-year exercise with Upstate for our radiological handling of a contaminated patient. So that was something that for them to work through their plan on the off-year where it's not a female evaluation. And for all of you that are so happy about participating, working on our off-year radiological exercise, which looks like it's going to be June 11th, 2024. So sometime in the next month or so, I'll be sending out an email to let everybody know when that exercise is. That's just a one exercise year, and that's a state evaluated exercise, not FEMA.
How are we doing with the hazard mitigation plan? We talked about that with the municipalities. Do they all cooperate? Are there any towns that are giving us any no responses, or is everybody on board?
Terry's got a few that she has a little quirks with, but for the most part, she's got a bunch this week. Orwell, Sandy Creek? Sandy Creek, yeah. I can find out which ones she's still lacking some areas of. Maybe towards Central Square area. I think she was waiting to hear back from a few people on that. But for the most part, people have jumped on board. So there was some new people to, like, Scriba has a new supervisor. So being that those elections just happened in November, we're trying to let them get their feet grounded a little bit before we start knocking on their door to work on that plan. But I can give you a better update when I have an idea of who she's still looking for and ask for you for some help.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting cooperation.
Yeah. I'll find out for sure. She does a really good job of doing it. As for the drone program, we have a new sheriff deputy that is now completed his training and he's in service. So now there's 3 sheriff's office deputies that use the drone programs and all have the equipment needed to do that. Some successful stories is we've been able to locate 3 missing persons in the county with the drones, working with search and rescue for that. So that's definitely a partnership that is well, incorporating the drones with search and rescue. Anybody have any other questions?
Any questions for Kathy? All right, moving on then. I'm not going to skip Dave today. So Dave, want any flags thrown?
Overall, basically, our numbers are pretty stable. We've got an interactive journaling group starting in the jail this week. Wednesday, we've got alternative incarceration advisory board meetings in the morning. We do those quarterly, so it's like 4th quarter. Victim impact panel on December 20th. pretty much it. As far as stop DUI, we've been going to some driver ed classes.
Ask anybody on this committee if they'd like to go to the API meeting, because I will not be able to make it. If they'd like to go, be informed of what goes on at those committee meetings, and volunteer now. And once.
You know, if anybody has an interest in coming, so you can, see, find them on. Or 6.
When is that?
The 20th, Wednesday.
Maybe send an email out to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, see if somebody's interested. There might be somebody. It's the holiday season, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna be missing a lot of people, I think.
Tiny. Yeah.
You may want to make it clear too that you're attending voluntarily and not because you have to.
Yeah, good. Any questions for Dave? Shane, you're up.
Good morning. Numbers till the end of October, 298 activations. We're up like 61 calls more than last year at the same time. 89 structure fires, 24 hazmat, 44 fire investigations, 7 dive, 2 rope, 99 no response required, and 33 other. List of classes also that I have there. We changed the BFO class, that's the basic exterior fire operations class, from a virtual meeting or virtual to an in-house for a couple different reasons. We sent out a survey to the volunteer fire departments. They'd rather do it in person was one of them. Second thing, I think there's a $75 charge to do it online. So that puts a burden on the fire departments to have to pay that. So we switched back to in-person there. Added a couple officer classes for this end of this month, or beginning of last month through this month. The Emergency Response Training Center classroom stats, 215 classes taught to date of October, 1,538 students, 1,161 instruction hours. And the last thing on the sheet is we've applied through the office for a $70,000 tech rescue grant to increase our capabilities, change out some panels, waiting to hear back on that.
Any questions for Shane? I just have.
Yeah, you go ahead first.
What's the latest on the Oswego town and the college? College is back in session. Have we, anything happened with that? Has it gone down at all?
It hasn't. It went to the next level. Last I knew, they are seeking to basically take them out of their fire district and the area they protect. So they are meeting with their attorneys and working towards the next step of how to do that.
Okay. Can that be done?
Legally, depends on who you talk to, but from what they're saying, it can be. That's why they're pursuing that avenue. I mean, they just received a large check from the state.
Yeah, I remember.
So,
okay, interesting. See how that's going to pan out. Yeah, that's a concern.
absolutely. Because somebody's going to have to provide them protection.
Exactly. All right, Kevin. Oh, I'm sorry, Richard, please.
Shane, this pertains to you, but it also pertains to more Nate. Kathy, he falls under your authority. I came across something last week, and I'll be honest with you, I was surprised, to be honest with you. Shame on me for not knowing about this. But I was talking to my assessor, Hallen Scruple. Been assessor forever, or whatever. And I asked him about the exemptions. And he started out with the newest exemption we passed. He says, yes, they have that in effect. And then we talked to him, he says, oh, by the way, though, he says, do you know, which, again, I'm kind of set back by it, actually, but Phoenix School District does not give the firemen, the EMTs, or the veterans an exemption. If we have any kind of, and again, shame on me, and I don't know about the rest of these districts around, I wouldn't know, why would I know anything about APW? I don't represent that.
Right.
But just for an example.
So what we're finding, talking with the fire departments through different meetings is that a lot of the school districts are not coming to the table to discuss that. They aren't in favor of it for whatever reasons. I don't know if they don't understand it completely.
No, follow the money. That's all you gotta do.
I believe Kevin, Central Square,
Yes, we get them to pass it.
they did approve it.
It was a lot of legwork though, ton of work with them.
Pulaski is in the process, I understand, of bringing that to their school district and moving that through its channels. But that is the biggest hang up when you talk to the fire departments, that the school districts are fighting them. And it's not just in this county, I think it's statewide also.
Well, in your experience, I'm sure you've contacted and talked to a lot of different people around the state, and I can understand why you would. What are other areas doing to try to remedy this? Because we do this in good faith, and I understand, and I'm not, and I'll be honest, I'm not huge on exemptions, but I understand it. And we're trying to get people involved more in our community, especially in the volunteer areas especially. And the thing is, the biggest share of your tax bill, or better known as my dad used to always say, the pigs at the trough are the ones that are not given it all. And you know, we're forcing ourselves into paid. And I'll tell you right now, that's not going to be the way to go too, because you can't get paid people either.
Right. So one of the things that I think is it's just going to those districts and explaining to them in layman's terms on how it works. A lot of that has to do with who goes and presents it. Kevin went for Central Square, West Monroe Chief, and they did a great job from the people that I know from Central Square. They explained it very well. So again, I think part of it has to do with they have to go to the meeting, they have to explain why this is and what it's not really going to impact them that much as they think. So education is the first thing, right? Educate the board members, explaining to them, side conversations before a meeting. That's probably the best avenue to go. On the other hand, the state right now has got an open comment period on the next recruitment retention. So if you remember in the budget, the governor put aside, I forgot how many millions of dollars for the volunteer fire service. And that was for education. So the Office of Fire Prevention Control, at last month's meeting, coordinators meeting we had, they finally came up with what classes they're going to pay for and how they're going to go about submitting that. So I go and take, as a new firefighter, I go and take the BFO class, like the one that's going to start. I think the number is $1,250. Don't quote me on them. I think it's $1,250 once I complete that class. That check will come directly to me from the state of New York. Of course, they're going to take their taxes out of it, but there's 3 classes: BFO, IFO, and Fire Officer 1. So there is some. I think if you take all 3 of those, it's like little over $2,000. Fire districts, villages, authorities having jurisdiction can go beyond that and pay for other classes that the state offers, but those municipalities are on the hook for that money. So they can set up their own pay schedule, more or less. So if I go take, say, a pump operators class, and I belong to Granby, and the first fire district town in Granby comes up with a pay schedule that says, well, if you go to this class, complete it, we'll give you $500. So there is movement on that recruitment retention part finally. I think it's either 30 or 45 days the open period is for public comment, and we're supposed to be moving forward with that first part of next year.
All right, that at least gives me an explanation on that, or at least direction. One more quick question, and it can be a complicated question. Our governor is really, really pushing these electric school buses. And are we, or will we have the capability to be equipped? Because that's a different fire.
It is.
First of all, we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it. Because on your end, you got to have the equipment to do what you have to do.
Yep. So a lot of that's still up in the air. If you look at like the UK, they're buying large vehicles with basically trash dumpsters, and they're submerging stuff in a giant water vat. Part of the issue is going to be is we live in upstate New York, and where are all our buses this time of year? They're inside a building. Well, insurance companies are saying those aren't going inside a building because of the fire hazards. So I don't think they have all the answers yet. It's not an easy fire because, again, each cell next to each other, it'll be a mess. So we're keeping our eye on it. We're watching what technology's doing. We're watching how other places in the country are handling things, but it's a big issue.
Well, right now, over at the academy, or whatever we want to call it,
Yep.
school, we don't have any type of equipment or training for that.
Basically, you're just going to protect the exposure. So, like, if it's, in my opinion, is if we pull up to a house fire and there's an electric car in there, it's burning, we're going to somehow get a hold of it, pull it out of the building, and let it burn. Keep it away from everything and just let it burn. I mean, it's junk anyways. The insurance company's going to pay for it. So basically, you're just going to protect the area around it, let it burn. It's the safest thing at this point, because you got to worry about the runoff of the water, what it's going to do to the environment. So it's ever evolving every day. Every day something's different. Every day something's changing.
And you did recently attend some training.
I did.
Right? We had
Back in October in Oswego town. It was more like battery and then some storage facilities like what happened up in Chameau Bay.
Is there a recommendation not to park electric cars in garages or anything yet as of right now?
Not from us. There is some legislation out near Long Island I just see get put out in the Size Up magazine, and I can share it with you next month if you'd like, where the county government is banning certain things. One of the things is batteries made in a certain area. I don't know how they go about doing it, but that just came out. I haven't had a chance to read that article yet. So there might be things.
Oh, so there's a specific battery manufacturer.
It has to do with where you park your vehicles. So basically, where where they run into troubles is you buy a scooter and it came with ABC battery company, but your kid used it so much the battery's no good anymore. You go on Amazon, you find the cheapest battery, you put it in. The parts don't necessarily marry up. It might be more voltage, less voltage. The charger doesn't go with that battery. So that's when they start getting into a lot of trouble with these things, is because you're rapid charging them, they're overheating the cells, and then there's a failure, and then it turns into a fire. So that isn't really known to the consumer, in my opinion. UL and other companies haven't put that out there. So that's one of the major concerns, is that people are replacing these things and they're not supposed to be.
And that's what's causing the fires?
Some of them. Yep. Some it's manufacturing issues.
That's interesting.
Misuse, dropped.
And the separate piece on these school buses with the electric, the battery piece to consider, and I've had this conversation with Sean Walker from County Highway, is the weight that it puts on, that some of the bridges and roadways can't take that weight level, so it's going to change some of the way that kids are getting to school as well, and maybe increase that time too. So it's something to consider, the weight load too. So that's going to be impactful.
From what we're hearing across school districts, just in general conversation, they're not equipped. The grid, the facilities aren't equipped to bring in that much power to start putting charging stations in their facilities, because they have to change their whole electrical system. They've got to be upgraded. So a lot of them are kind of sit and wait. I mean, I want to speak for all the school districts, but a lot of them are waiting to see how it goes.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to Kevin, 911.
Call volumes up, as it typically has been over the past couple of years at this point, pretty steady now. Middle of October, our recruits did go out onto the dispatch floor. So they've been out there half of October, all of November, and they just as of last Friday were released to their shifts. So all 6 of them did make it through their training, which is excellent. Obviously, clean up stuff and, follow things we can do after the fact that we'll continue to work on, but that was successful since we brought in 7 and only lost 1, which was good. So, and that makes a huge difference. Doesn't resolve all of our issues, but it definitely does help. We did we're in the process of doing cross-training for fire EMS dispatch last week, this week, and next week. That'll have 4 more fire EMS dispatchers that'll be in training over the next 300 hours that they work, however that works in their schedule. Then they'll be released, and at that point in time, things will definitely be better than we were. We are in the process of doing interviews end of this week, Friday and next coming Monday, I believe it is, to finish out the list of telecommunicators and start another recruit academy in January. Hopefully we're starting that the second week of January, which will get us, knock on wood, hopefully back to good staffing. There's still a lot of cross-training that needs to be done, but we definitely are a lot better than we have been recently. We're not, are seeing, as of this week, well, as of this past week, our 2 shifts that were below minimum requiring overtime every single shift, that's been relieved, which is very, very good. So we're going to way through that. To continue on with that piece, we do have an open house scheduled for not this coming Saturday, next Saturday, December 16th, from 10 o'clock to 12. That we'll be trying to attempt to do the same thing we did last year, bring the public in. Normal operations will be done at the backup site in Fulton, and bring people in, go through some simulations of some incidents and stuff, and answer questions, and hopefully it's the week before the testing cycle closes, so starting to see if we can get some more people to sign up for the test. As of right now, we have 8 people on the list. We have been getting a handful of queries since then, so hopefully we're going to crawl back up there. I don't know if we'll see 100 and some like we did last year, but it is definitely helpful to still have people on the list at this point, because this will actually be 3 recruit academies that we've gone through up this past list. So, hopefully we don't need to continue to do 3 recruit academies in a year and a half. We can keep some people, but because we've definitely made some headway there. All in all, I think the big thing we've been working on this past month is one of the things that we've identified with the difference in type of people that we've been hiring recently, not necessarily all coming from first responder world, with having some coping skills and some of the abilities to be able to deal with some of the incidents that 911 does deal with, is mental health. It's been a big, so it's been starting to put a lot more effort into looking at putting together a peer-to-peer program, which we're going to be starting here in January. Starting working on some training and stuff, working towards that, as well as over the past month, we brought in a first responder therapy dog, come in for a couple hours a piece on each of the shifts, just to spend a little bit of time to give the staff a little bit of a breather, a little bit of break, while obviously still doing their job. But that seemed to break things up. And it's a program that's completely free to us. It's all run off of donations. It's a nationwide initiative, actually. So we shared one day with probation as well, and went. It's definitely been an excellent program for both. And we're going to continue scheduling that regularly in that one. So, so working through that. CSI-wise, we did attend a virtual demo with a new product, or new recently acquired company by Motorola that has some other safety stuff that will tie into our CSI program, as well as our building security program as well, I think. Specifically app interactions possibly, and automated notifications going out to people. Being able to set up notifications, like if there's a fire alarm system or something going on in one of the buildings, we can actually have it set up to be able to send notifications to employees that there's something going on in that building, which is something we had talked about in the building security meeting. And then, that would also tie into like notifying schools of, an active shooter or something nearby very early on in the process also. So looking at, there's definitely a couple products in there that I think that are interesting, so.
Shane, I'm sorry, question?
No, I just want to mention also, the hazmat team is capable of, we do have equipment. So we've had several calls for battery issues, battery fires and different appliances. Our hazmat team is capable of going there, overpacking it. We have overpack drums. We've got the stuff they call cell block. So we can handle pretty much most small items. When it gets into the size of a car or something, we're not capable of doing that. But if we need more of that stuff, the state does have it on hand for us to call and get it to us. So that's where we're at with that.
Thank you. Milton? Yep. Any questions for Kevin? All right, before we move on to Mark Moody, I'd like to thank him for all his years of service to Oswego County. I believe this is your last meeting.
That would be correct.
Well, thank you for all your years and we wish you well moving forward. You got anything to report?
No. Nothing really. Just moving along, trying to keep the head above water.
Mr. Castillo?
Mike, good luck on your future. Okay?
Thanks.
But, I'm sure everybody's seen the paper, so I just want to know, the exodus, is it factual or fictional?
Well, there is, of the people that were in the office on January 1st of 2023, one of them will be remaining as of January 1st, 2024. So, I mean, there are, of the people that I took over when I became acting, of the people that were there on that date, there will be one of them remaining as of January 1st, 2024. We did hire 2 new people who you'd have to talk to the incoming administration to see whether they're staying or not. I know that I have been contacted by one person because that is going to be working for the new administration for Tony. The only reason I got contacted because he was it's Tom Christopher. He had a trial scheduled for January 14th or 15th, whatever the second Monday is, or the third Monday, excuse me, in January is. He was the defense attorney on that, so he had to let us know that he wasn't going to be able to do that because we have to figure out what to do from there. I've heard some other people have told me that Craig Morrissey's coming back, so other than that, I don't know who's coming back, but the exodus is real. It's the reason for it is the reason for it. So
the reason for it, that was going to be my next question, was, in line with is it just like, people, everybody leaving the boat because of the new administration coming in, or is it change because of salaries, or is it change because of?
Well, I guess I would put it this way. Obviously, my situation is entirely different than everybody else's.
Right.
Prior to Tony announcing officially who his number 2 person was going to be, we had 2 ADAs who were leaving for a combination of, as they explained it to me, of uncertainty of what was going to happen and their frustration with what they perceived to be the salary issues that were coming on. That was Caleb Petzold, who went to the Public Defender's Office, and Courtney Vendetti, who will be working in the Cuyahoga County DA's office along with myself. Once the number 2 person was named officially, and it was confirmed, I had 2 other ADAs. Well, I had 3 other ADAs who said they were leaving, 2 of whom have officially gotten jobs. One her last day is this Friday. The other person will be starting January 2nd. They're both going to other DA's offices. The 3rd person is looking and doesn't know what her plan. She just doesn't have an offer at this point. She's had probably a half dozen interviews, just trying to find. She lives here in the county, so she's in a slightly different situation with where she can go to for DA's offices. And the Attorney General's office, while she's interviewed with them, their bureaucracy usually takes several months to get to the point where they hire you. As an example, the job Greg took, he interviewed for that. He took the job in September. He interviewed for that sometime in early June. So it takes, it's a bureaucracy, as you can imagine. So to answer the question, it's a combination of both, but I think the situation would have been much different if either the salary situation had been different or I think the other two might have stayed. Although I can't say that for sure because I know with what had happened with the number 2 person there. So I don't know if that answers your question, Frank, but that's about all I can say.
Kind of. All right. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Well, I can tell you that I met with the district attorney-elect last week, and he's confident that he'll be fully staffed, or at least staffed enough to carry on. And he's got a few people lined up to come in, so I don't think there's any worries about, having enough people there to run the ship.
I will say that I have reached out to Tony there's been 7 emails between myself and Greg since June, probably a half dozen phone calls. I've tried to get Tony to come in to see how the office works. I've tried to get him to let me know how he wants to do things, and I've heard nothing. So, I hope everything works out, but I don't have any information other than what I told you.
Thank you very much.
Anything we missed? Any old business? I'll look for the appropriate motion. Second. Okay.